Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics. I'm here in the lovely home of Jeannie Simpson. This is a really beautiful ranch. I'm a New York boy, so I don't really see these often. You and your husband have been here for 7 years,
Yes,
but it goes to the 19th century in your family.
that's correct.
Talk to me about the history of this ranch and how far it goes back in your family.
My great grandfather and his wife came out here in 1883, just after the railroad was finished, and settled a ranch here. This is only part of it. It was, in fact, a very large ranch. He started with sheep and then discovered that there was more money in cattle. He also raised mules for the Army when they were out here, and so they used to put together big mule trains to go down to Shafter and on down to the border. And he used percherons and burros and raised mules. And they raised six children to adulthood. They lost one when she was a baby. So, and my grandmother was the oldest of their brood, and my father was her youngest. So, like I said, I'm the fourth generation to be in the ranch out here. And I've had a peripatetic life. I've lived all over the country. I've lived out of the country. And coming back to the ranch was always a way of sort of settling myself. And it was the one constant in my life. And so finally being able to live here has made me very, very happy. So
It's kind of it seems like life gets busy, whether it's your career or raising kids or whatever,
yes.
and you come out somewhere like here and allows you to breathe a little bit and to see things in a different way.
Well, as I have said to other people, it puts my compass back on true north to be out here. And I love the quiet. I love the clean air, these gorgeous night skies. And I love living with the animals. I watch the wildlife every day. Something comes by and gives me entertainment. About a week and a half ago, we had a herd of 35 pronghorns come through here. That's the biggest group I've seen probably in 30 years out here. So that was a thrill.
You also have species here that are unique to North America as well.
That's the pronghorn, yes. And the horned toad, known in Texas, it's a horny toad, and you can make what you like out of that. And we also have the collared peccary, the javelinas. Unfortunately, we also have feral hogs out here. That was a new introduction and one we're not happy with, but they're hard to get rid of.
So, 7 years, not that long of a time. Talk to me about how this situation first became present to you. Did you get a letter in the mail? Did you see bulldozers on your property?
I did not get a letter in the mail. I got a phone call from a guy who told me he was a landsman. Now, that's a person whose job it is to go out and get easements for pipeline companies, oil companies, and so on. It's apparently a fairly lucrative business. And he said, there's going to be a pipeline coming through your land. This was 2.5 years ago. And I said, I haven't heard anything about it. But I'll talk to you. I won't make a commitment to anything until I talk to a lawyer. Anyway, I don't remember what he offered me per rod, which was one of the units of measurement. But I said I wasn't interested. And then, I guess 6 months later, I got a call from another landsman who told me that this was happening and that he represented Trans-Pecos, and came out and told me I needed to give permission to the survey team. So I didn't really ever get a letter until I got an announcement document from Trans-Pecos Pipeline saying that they were going to have a community meeting in several locations out here. They had one in Presidio. They had one in Marfa. I couldn't go to either of those, so I went to the one in Alpine. And I have to say it was very slick. They had poster boards on easels, and they had a person to meet about every 3 or 4 people. And of course, they had you sign in their guest book, and they had refreshments and so on, and a map with the pipeline route. But it was a a low resolution map. You couldn't, it looked like it was going to come through my land, but it showed the whole county. So, and so I started asking questions. My understanding of eminent domain is that it is only applied when there is a clear public good to be served. For example, the highway over here. My grandmother had an eminent domain action to bring the highway through what was her ranch. However, in this case, I asked, do you have eminent domain? And I got the answer from this answer from several of the landsmen that I talked to. The answer was, well, we really don't want to go there. And I said, well, I don't want to go there either, but do you have the right of eminent domain? Well, we don't really want to go there. And finally, I said, I want a yes or no answer. And so I was taken and introduced to Kelsey Warren. I did not know who he was at the time, not really.
He was at this meeting?
He was at this meeting. And so I asked him, do you have eminent domain? And he said, we really don't want to go there. And I said, do you have it? And he said, yes, ma'am, we do. And I said, from whom did you receive it? What was the granting authority? And it was the Texas Railroad Commission. So that's when I knew what the deal was. But I got that reassurance, we don't really want to go there. I appreciated the sentiment, but my thought was, if you didn't want to go there, why did you get it?
Meaning, we don't want to go there, we don't want to have to use it.
That's what it meant, yes.
And did Kelsey Warren give you any other information about this?
No. I understood that he needed to talk to a lot of people. I didn't feel it was necessary to take a lot of his time. He was introduced to me as the guy in charge. I really did not understand who he was until later.
So you go from landsmen contacting you to community meetings. What was the next step that happened?
The next step was the official landsman started negotiating with me. And meantime, we had a survey team come out and do the survey for the route of the pipeline and put out their stakes and so on. And that's when I noticed that they were going to go very close to a tree that I had had a big fight with the American Electric Power, who had been out here putting that. There's a transmission line over there. That happened only 2 years before the pipeline started. And they agreed to move their easement 100 feet so that they wouldn't take out that tree. You may have noticed how many trees there are out here, and they're very valuable. So I asked the survey team, what about that tree? And they said, well, we don't know. We'll just have to see. As it happens, the final route made a little kind of jog to the west, and the tree is still standing. So somebody got the message that I was willing to fight for the tree. Anyway, they came out. They also sent out an environmental study group. These people were to see what the effects on the physical environment might be, and also if any archaeological issues might appear. I don't know if you know it, but there has been human habitation in this part of Texas for thousands of years. Not a lot of people, but definitely people. And what that team actually found, a stone hammer that had been used out here, Paleolithic stone hammer. But that apparently was not a showstopper. So, and it was right in the pipeline route. So they did go through all of that. Then the landsman came to me with an offer that I said, well, no, we're pretty far apart, because by that time I had made a pretty careful study of other ranches and the real estate market in ranches, more or less like mine. What I did was to take a survey of what they were asking in real estate sales, and I got rid of the two extreme ends, the $5 billion ranch and the $2 ranch, and studied what approximately per acre things were going for. And I came up with an evaluation of my ranch. And I got to tell you, I was very close to what the appraisers came up with. So what I had read online was that usually easements, the payment should be, or the loss of value is another way of putting it, was between 12 and 20% of the overall value of the ranch. And so I took that number and I told them what I wanted. Well, we were very far apart. And so I said, well, okay. And he came back with a somewhat better offer. And I said, good, that shows me that we can negotiate. And I said, I'll move to, but not yet. And I said, meantime, what I would like to do is negotiate the terms of the easement. I said, I want very strict requirements about what hours of the day people are out here. I don't want any automatic lighting because we're under a dark skies policy out here. I don't want trash. I want to know when you're on my ranch. And all of that. Well, we were negotiating on that, and the impression I got was that none of those issues were a problem for the pipeline company. And then one day he called me and he said, I can get you this amount, which was about a fourth of what I wanted. And he said, I can get you this amount, but you have to accept it within a week. And I said, that sounds like a threat. I said, I have to accept it within a week or what? Well, we'll take you to condemnation. And I said, well, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But I'm not accepting that offer.
Let me ask you, just moving backwards for a second. When people hear that you have to, you're kind of at the mercy of people on your private land. Mm-hmm. Simply put, how did that make you feel? Were you angry, upset? Because it's just bizarre to even hear that, you need to request all these things from people on your land, your private land.
When you put it that way, yes, it is bizarre. But, I've dealt with easements before. Easements are not unusual. And it is a way of protecting the land. The thing is that Trans-Pecos Pipeline told me, well, it's our policy to do all those things. And I said, well, that's very nice, but policies can change. If it's in a contract, it can't change. I want it in a contract. So that was my feeling. Do I want people out here without my knowledge? Do I want people I don't know? Certainly not. Nobody wants that. You don't want people walking into your living room and say, excuse me, I want to sit on your couch for a while. I mean, no, nobody wants that. But I understood that I really had no choice in this. I could not stop the pipeline. I knew that was going to happen. The people who are building this pipeline have very deep pockets. I have a buttonhole. I got no pockets. So it's not like I had any notion that I could stop them. What I do have a notion of is that I can demand fair and just treatment, and that I can take whatever measures I need to protect the integrity of my land. And that's my goal. And I have to say the negotiations I was in with regard to those matters were extremely cordial. Nobody thought I was being unreasonable. Nobody thought that I was demanding more than was really customary. My father worked for an oil company for 35 years. And he learned a whole lot about leases and easements and so on. And he taught me those things. And I also had good legal advice. So, I understand. I know that a person in a corporate office can say, she's right, we shouldn't be leaving trash out there. We need to be sure the gates are closed and so on. But the guys they hire to work for them, they may or may not get that message. And, they come out here on a Friday afternoon, they've been working all week, they're tired, and they really think they want a beer. I get that. I just don't want that beer bottle on my land. I want them to drink somewhere else. So, I get that. But I believe that it is the corporation's job to control that, not mine.
I guess bigger picture also, since this is a family legacy, this ranch,
Yes.
we were just driving in and it's like There's stockpiles of digging that you could see. You seem pretty reasonable and calm about it, but originally, what was your feelings? Because they're essentially digging through your family heirloom here.
I hate it. I hate that dirt has been undisturbed for 30 million years. And now they're digging it up and leaving this huge trench. And I know from hard experience out here, when you disturb the land in a desert environment, it takes decades, even centuries, to heal. So that scar will be on the land. I don't care what they promise me about reseeding, yada, yada, bop. No, you will be able to see it. There are tracks on my brother's ranch that were put there when people came out here in wagons on the Chihuahua Trail. And if you look on Google Earth, there they are. You can see them. All right, that was 150 years ago. That's how long it takes, maybe longer, for things to heal. It's just an extremely fragile environment. And people look out here at this really rugged landscape, these mountains and huge boulders and rolling prairie and so on, and they think, wow, this is tough country. Yes, it is, but it's a very fragile environment. It is easily changed. It is easily spoiled. I know that in the first half of the 20th century, this area was badly overgrazed, and the result was an epic drought. And probably it's never going to quite recover its original flora and fauna. I go out here and I look at this. This is the best grass I've ever seen out here in my entire lifetime. It's taken that long from that drought, which happened in my childhood. It's taken that long for it to recover.
And let's talk about safety, because when you look at, for example, a lot of spotlight on North Dakota, it's very clear. People's water is in jeopardy. Here, this is natural gas, less of a contamination concern, but more of, these pipelines explode.
They do
explode. You've seen it in Texas too.
Yes.
And we're
actually one of Energy Transfer's pipelines exploded down at Cuero about 2 years ago, and it was a third the size of this pipeline. 42 inches is enormous, and it's high pressure, and they're going to be sending just an incredible volume of gas out there. If there were a leak, just a leak, it would be it would contaminate the air for a while. That stuff is going to go up into the atmosphere. That's not good for anybody. On the other hand, if there were a spark, all right, we're in a place where 7 or 8% humidity is common. And we have fire bans. We have one in effect right now. And that's why you can have somebody toss a cigarette out in a high wind day, and it'll burn 50,000 acres by dark. Or if you have somebody scrape on a rock with the rim of a wheel, you can throw out a spark and cause a fire. So the problem of starting a fire out here, even accidentally, it's serious. We all worry about fire. We had the Rock House fire here 6 years ago. It burned 300,000 acres before they got it under control. It moved from Marfa to Fort Davis in 45 minutes. That's 25 miles. So that's the kind of thing we talk about. So if there were a spark, if there were a lightning strike, and there were a leak, it would be a very large bang and a catastrophic fire. And as close as we are, this house where we're sitting, we're 500 yards from that pipeline. And so if it happened there, as I told you earlier, the concussion would kill us. But I'd be dead and my ranch would be on fire.